Hi there. Welcome to Hourglass Workshops and Conversations with Nancy and Cheryl. I'm Nancy Burns. I'm an acupuncturist in San Jose, California.
And I'm Cheryl Seavey. I'm a writer and blogger in Los Gatos, California. And today
Yes,
we are talking about,
the kind of ages and stages and where we are right now.
yeah.
And we were talking about, each decade brings new things for us. Your 50s is a lot of transition, a
Mhm.
lot of major changes. Kids go away, you start thinking about retirement. You want to get out and have your freedom after being a parent. You can travel without children and all that and have fun.
And
60,
I think to kind of just piggyback on that, and marriages end. You got
yeah,
divorced in your 50s, and I got married remarried in my 50s.
yeah,
So
yeah.
relationship shift, friend shift, there's just a major shifts in your life.
Lots of big upheaval.
And not all
Yeah.
by choice. Yeah.
No, no. Then in the 60s, we've got the transition to retirement, and coming to terms with the fact that many of us in our 60s become grandparents and the world starts viewing us differently. Um, in our 70s, which is where both Cheryl and I are right now, your focus seems to be very much on your health and your longevity.
Hmm.
And because we are losing friends
Hmm.
and family and spouses, and so there's a lot of change there. And I hear from my patients so many times recently, oh, well, this is my last car. This is the last time I'm going to go to Europe. This may be my last this, my last that,
Hmm.
which frankly I kind of hate to hear. But, the fact is that people are coming to terms with the fact that they are in the last quarter of their lives.
Hmm.
And then in the 80s, I'm not there yet, but I read that that is the happiest time in people's lives. They are comfortable with who they are. They're happy with their lives,
Yeah.
and what they've accomplished, and they're enjoying every minute because they know that the minutes are limited, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
So, what do you think about that?
I think so, and I do think that we relish time differently in our 70s
Yeah,
and look at it differently. Not only is this my last car, mental thing, but you also cull out what doesn't serve you at all. And I think you're much, I mean, I'm more ruthless about getting rid of things. It's like, no, I'm never going to use those skis again,
right,
kind of a thing.
right,
Well, actually, those went
right.
away a couple decades ago, but clothes and lifestyle things, and I think we become much more realistic
And
towards ourselves.
even acquaintances that
Yes,
just no longer
yeah,
serve you.
yeah,
It's like, okay, what am I getting out of this relationship? And
yeah,
you don't have to be ruthless about it, but you can easily let it just go. You
yes,
don't have to keep pursuing something that doesn't really serve you
right.
anymore.
And
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 there's a
chances,
lot of those that are happening,
yeah, and I think those, if it's not serving you, chances are it's not serving them either. You're just not clicking. And I love to sit down and have great conversations with people and learn about where they are, what they're doing, kind of the meatier topics.
Right.
Not to say that I don't like my giggling and girls and giggling kind of a thing, but I do enjoy that,
Hmm.
and I become much more protective of my quality time.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so it's just food for thought. And I do think that if you are in your 70s, the biggest concern is our health,
Hmm.
and do what you can to foster good
Yeah,
health at
yeah, I
this
think
point,
so. And I think to kind of just a couple of things. One is, if people are podcast listeners, which I am, Julia Louise Dreyfus does a great podcast on Wiser Than Me, and she talks to older women in their 80, 70s and 80s. Jane Fonda, Dolly Parton, Diane von Furstenberg. And one of the things Diane von Furstenberg said is that she says, I don't ever ask people how old they are. I don't say how old I am. I say, how many years have you lived? And she said, I don't care
Hmm.
whether I'm talking to somebody that's 80 or talking to somebody that's 7. I go, how
Hmm.
many years have you lived? And the little kid just is, well, I've lived 7 years,
Yeah.
and with delight. And I think that it was just a great spin on that. But the women that are in their 80s, they are so happy.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think we've all kind of, at that point kind of made peace with where we are. And so, and I think even in my 70s, I look forward to things, that I haven't before,
Yeah.
and more mindful about that. So,
Well, and I do think attitude's everything. And so rather than looking at this is the end, look at this is a very delightful time in life to be
mhm.
exactly who you are
Yeah,
and be happy with it,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. And
And if other
recognize it.
people aren't, move on,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and as far as like travel, so, oftentimes people feel like, well, gee, this is my last trip to Europe or my last trip to Africa or whatever. And maybe that's not in your plan, but there's so many things that you can do that are closer by.
Right,
You don't have
right.
to be on a 14-hour flight and whatnot. And so take advantage of
But
what's around
in the
you.
same vein, don't start limiting
Right,
yourself.
right.
That to me is destructive behavior. I
Hmm.
really think that it's important for us to still be engaged and not look at the end, look at every day as a new beginning,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
So even some days when you wake up feeling crummy, it's like, okay, what can I do today to make me feel good, you
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And there's
And
there's
hopefully that's not tequila for breakfast, but you never know.
yeah, and that's true. That's true. So I think just in summary, acknowledge where you are now and appreciate this decade.
Right.
Whatever decade you're in, appreciate it because there's so many gifts and wonderful things at this time in life.
Yeah. And live with enthusiasm and work toward really good health, which at this point in life, it takes a little bit of effort. It doesn't just magically happen. So make
Uh,
the effort.
that's true,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there we are. Anyway, until next time, I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Nancy.
Bye now.
Bye.